Hello and welcome to GCSE Maths this week with Cam. We'll be looking at trigonometry, maths to do with working out missing angles and lengths in right angle triangles. So when you use trigonometry in the foundation paper, you can use it in one or two ways. The first one, to work out missing length given a length and an angle, or to work out a missing angle given two lengths. The particular method that I'm going to be calculating missing angles and missing lengths in right angle triangles is a three-step method as shown. First step is to label the triangle. Second step, to work out which formula to use, is it SAR, CA or TOA, and the last step is actually using the triangle to work out is the missing length or the missing angle. Okay, so the first step was to label the triangle. And you label the triangle always in relation to the angle. So if the angle in the question is the angle at the top of the triangle, like in the diagram, we will label the triangle as follows. So the angle opposite the angle, so the side which is opposite the angle is called the opposite. The length which is next to the angle is called the adjacent, and the biggest side, which is always opposite the right angle, is called the hypotenuse. Right now, so this triangle, the angle in the question is at the bottom of the triangle, so the placement of the three labels will change. So as you can see, the hypotenuse actually doesn't change, it stays the same. Doesn't matter where the angle is in the question. It's just the opposite and the adjacent that change. So the opposite, again, is opposite the angle. As you can see there, we label that the opposite. And the side which is next to the angle, we call the adjacent. The step 2 is to work out which formula to use, SAR, CA or TOA. And I like to write them out as a triangle, SAR, CA and TOA as follows. So in a question, if you're given the two sides opposite and hypotenuse, you would use the formula SAR. If you were given the hypotenuse and the adjacent, you would use CA. And if you were given instead opposite and adjacent, you would use TOA. Depending on the labels which are relevant to your question will determine which of the triangles and which of the formulae to use. And then the last step is to place your figures into the triangles and work out whether it's the missing length or the missing angle you want to find out. Right, okay, so let's give this a go. So I've got 3 questions on the board. Let's try 2 questions and then I'll give you a chance to work out the last question yourself. Right, okay, so if I label the triangle, you can see the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, and that is used in the question, that's 22 centimeters. And the opposite, which is opposite the angle given in the question, is what I'm going to work out, which is x. The adjacent in this question is blank. It's not a number, it's not a measure, or it's not a letter which denotes something I need to work out. So it's not going to be used in the question. So as I have opposite and the hypotenuse, the only triangle which has an O and a H in it is this triangle here. So this is the triangle I will be using in this question. Okay, so my final step is to substitute the values into the triangle and then calculate what x is. So substituting the values into the triangle then looks like this. So the opposite is x in blue. The hypotenuse is 22 centimeters. I will put 22 here. And the angle is 12 degrees. The S stands for sine, so therefore I write down sine of 12 degrees in this section of the triangle. As the S and the H are next to each other in the triangle, I will multiply them together to work out what O or X is. So the sine of 12 degrees multiplied by 22 will give me the missing side X. You will need a scientific calculator to work this out. First of all, sine, then 12 bracket multiplied by 22, which is the bottom line over here. When I press equals, it will give me the value of X. And that is 4.57405798. Usually 2 decimal places is an acceptable degree of accuracy, so 4.57 centimeters will do. Okay, there you go, that's the first question done. X, the opposite side in that triangle, is equal to 4.57 centimeters. Right, on to question number 2. So the first step is to label the triangle with either adjacent, opposite or hypotenuse. Right, so in the question, X is the adjacent, which is adjacent to the angle. Therefore, I will label this side adjacent. The largest side is opposite the right angle. That's the hypotenuse. The opposite, there's nothing there. It's not an X. It's not a letter. That's something that we need to work out, or it's not a measure that's given to us. So therefore, I don't need to label that. So I need to look for a triangle, the second step, with an A and a H in it. Okay, so the triangle which has an A and a H in it, adjacent and a hypotenuse in it, is CAF. So that's the triangle I will be using to work out the missing length X. Okay, so now that we've identified which triangle we're going to be using, the CAF triangle, my next step is to substitute the values into that triangle itself. Okay, so the triangle with the value substituted into it will look something like this. X is our adjacent, C is cos of the angle, which is 31 degrees, and H, the hypotenuse, is 12 centimeters. And once again, because the C and the H are next to each other, it denotes that we're going to multiply them together. So the cos 31 degrees will be multiplied by 12 to work out our missing length, the adjacent, which is X. Okay, so let's use our calculator. So cos of 31, don't forget the bracket, multiplied by 12 is equal to 10.28607000761. To 2 degrees of accuracy, 10.29 will be sufficient. Okay, well done, good. So have a go at question number 3 yourself. So press pause, give yourselves a couple of minutes. Remember, first step, label the diagram. Second step, substitute the values into the correct triangle, and lastly do your calculation. Okay, give yourself 2 minutes, and then we'll go through it. Okay, well done guys. So you've had some time to have a go at it. So let me go for the answer, and you can check your workings out and identify whether you're okay with this or whether you need to do some more practice. Okay, well done guys. So let's go through it. Your first step was to label the triangle. So the opposite side is given in the question. The hypotenuse is what we're working out. So I will be using a triangle with O and H in there, which happens to be the same triangle as in the first question, sock triangle. Substituting the values into here, the opposite is 16, the hypotenuse is X, and the angle is 24. Because it's an S, I will be using sine of 24 degrees. Calculation, because the 16 is above the 24, I would not be multiplying this time, but instead I will be dividing. So 16 divided by the sine of 24 is going to give me my value of x, which is 39.34. Okay, just a quick trick for you. If you want to do that on a calculator, you can use the fraction button. So 16 down sine of 24 bracket equals will give you your answer there. Now, as you'll recall, there's two ways that you can use trigonometry in a right angle triangle. The first way is to work out a missing length, what we've just done previously, and we can also work out a missing angle if we have two lengths given in the question. So we'll have a bit of practice at this, and then you can have a go at some questions yourself. So the procedure will be exactly the same as before. Your first step will be to label the triangle. So let's have a go at that first. Okay, so we have the hypotenuse, which is your longest side in the triangle, opposite the right angle. And we also have the opposite of the angle in the question, which is 16 centimeters. So out of the three triangles, SOH, CAT and TOA, the triangle which ends with opposite and the hypotenuse is SOH. So that's the triangle I will be using for this question. Okay, your next step is to substitute the values into the triangle. Okay, so the opposite side was 16 centimeters. So the top of the triangle is 16. The hypotenuse, the longest side, is 28 centimeters. Therefore, the H is 28. And the angle that we are trying to work out is sine of the angle in the triangle. So that means 16 divided by 28 will give me sine of the angle. So let's do that on the calculator. 16 divided by 28 equal to 4/7, or you can press SD to change that to a decimal. That 4/7 is equal to sine of x. But in the question, it's not asking me to work out what the sine of x is, it's asking me to just work out what x is. So on my calculator, I need to press shift and the sine button, okay? And this is the inverse sine. So the inverse sine will tell me what x is of the previous answer. That is equal to 34.85 degrees. Okay, so two decimal places, 34.85 degrees. So don't forget the additional step when you're working out angles, do the inverse function. Whether if you're working out sine of x, it's going to be inverse sine. If you have cos of x, it will be inverse cos. If it's tan of x, you'll have inverse tan. Right, okay, let's have a look at question number 2. First step, label the triangle. Okay guys, so labeling the triangle, adjacent is next to the angle, the hypotenuse is the longest side opposite the right angle in the triangle, and there's nothing, an x or a number, measure opposite, so therefore I ignore that side there. So the triangle I will be using is a CAT triangle because it contains A for the adjacent and H for the hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and substitute the values into that triangle now. Right, so substituting the values into that triangle, I have 3 for the adjacent, 6 for the hypotenuse, and C, it means cos of x, the angle, cos of the angle. Okay guys, my last step, step 3, is to do my workings out. As A and H are above each other, I divide this time instead of multiplying, and that will give me my value of cos of x. Okay, so 3 divided by 6 is equal to a half. Again, I can change that to a decimal if I wish to. That is equal to cos of the angle, okay? But it's not the cos of the angle I need, it's just the angle itself. So I need to do an additional step, which is shift cos of that value, which is a half. So inverse cos of a half is 60 degrees. Awesome, well done guys, okay? That was question number 2. So press pause, give yourselves a couple of minutes, have a go at question number 3 yourselves. Again, start off by labelling the triangle. substitute the values into the right triangle itself, SOHCAHTOA, and then do your workings out. But don't forget, because you're working out an angle, you have to press inverse of the sine, cos, or tan before you can get to the angle at the end. Okay, give it a go, guys. Press pause, 2 minutes, and then we'll go for the answer. Okay, guys, let's go through it. Again, if you get it right, fantastic. Okay, you've understood it really well. If you haven't, not to worry. Press pause, rewind the video, go through the examples again. Okay, make some notes as you're going through it, and then hopefully it will make a bit more sense. And then you can have got some questions to really test yourself at the end. Okay then, guys. So, question number 3. Label the triangle. 12 centimeters is opposite the angle. Hypotenuse is the longest side in that triangle, and then I don't have anything on the adjacent, so that's not going to be labeled. The triangle which I will be using for this particular question will be SOH, as it contains opposite, over opposite, and H for hypotenuse. So substituting the values into the triangle, 12 is the opposite, 14 is the hypotenuse, and X is the angle. So in S, I have sine of X degrees. As O and H are above each other, I will be dividing, not multiplying. 12 divided by 14 is equal to the sine of X. So X is equal to the inverse sine of 12 divided by 14. I can do that in one step on a calculator as well. So inverse sine of 12 divided by 14, and that's equal to 58.997 to 2 decimal places. Okay, that would be 59 degrees. Okay, thank you for watching that video, guys. I hope you found it helpful. Right, have we got the Kahoot assignment to test your skills on trigonometry. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more videos like this in the future, press subscribe and leave any comments below and any questions below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys same place next week. Take care, guys.